sincerely thank Leslie for joining us in studio today. What a great interview. What a lot of fun. And we wish her all the best of luck and best of success as she moves forward with her show and her songs and her and her podcast and all that stuff. But listen, we're moving into the tech side here of Pop Song Tech. And today we're talking about something that occurred just a few weeks ago, and the dust has settled on it at this point, so we're going to kind of sift through that dust and see what's material and what's not. We're talking about CES. I had a chance to go to an event where various industry experts got together to talk with us about their interpretations of what really mattered at CES. It was at the Paley Center for Media. It's a great organization. Get involved with it if you happen to be in New York City or L.A. or visit either of those on a regular occasion. Great organization if you're into television. Used to be called the Museum of Television and Radio. But they had people, if you can't make it to CES, this is them bringing CES to you. And this year, I opted not to go to CES because I had a lot of stuff going on. We're working on this startup, a lot of product development stuff happening and meeting with prospects and clients and good things. So wasn't able to make it out to Vegas, but Vegas came to me here. We had John Miller, who's a partner at Advanced Capital, talking with us. The panel was moderated by a guy named Christian Borges, who's an SVP of marketing at TrueX. Joanna Stern, who is the personal technology columnist for the Wall Street Journal, was talking with us, as was Dana Woolman, who's the managing editor for an awesome magazine or digital product called Engadget. I look at a lot of their stuff. Then they had presenters that included people like Tim Alessi, who was the senior director of product marketing for LG Electronics. They were showing some of the new TVs that are going to make a difference. Great insights on the Internet of Things from Brett Greenstein, who's the VP of Watson for IBM Watson. He was talking about the Internet of Things and consumer business. I had a chance to chat with him ahead of the event about smart light bulbs. We'll talk about that a little bit too. And then my favorite was the talk from the guy from HTC Vive. The executive director of strategy for HTC Vive was there. His name was Vinay Narayan. Really passionate guy, talking with us about a new thing called Viveport, which is going to be a new service that HTC Vive launches in the very near future. This will be a subscription service that you and I can subscribe to watch non-gaming material. Think television-type shows or storytelling shows, documentaries, etc., watching real videos in VR in a subscription mode. So they're basically launching their own channel. He'll be talking with us a little bit about that here in just a few moments. This is the Pocket Full of Sound segment, moved to the second half of the show and focused in on the events of the Paley Center here. So I want to share with you, I'm going to bring out the Pocket Full of Sounds today. We're talking about this event, and as we mentioned in the past, probably the biggest thing that came out of this event was a focus on Alexa from Amazon. And, I say that, and of course my thing lights up over here. This is the funny thing about Alexa. When people like me are talking about this device and the Amazon Echo or the Amazon Dot or whatever it is, or now there's like 1,000 things out there with Amazon voice services, we talk about Alexa, and if you've got the speakers up in your house, I can accidentally trigger your Amazon Echo just by talking about it. Well, that just happened a couple of weeks ago when a television anchor was talking about some of the events from CES, and he was using some examples of what the commands are for Alexa and was using it to demonstrate how you can shop with it. And apparently him issuing these commands on the newscast caused all of these people in the audience that had this device to accidentally order something from Amazon. So it's the new problems of today, right? Well, voice was a big trend this week or this year at CES. And let's jump into this. So Paley Center is, as I mentioned, a great organization. And they've just got so much history on television and old programs. It's a great resource, a great place to go. And I'll share with you an example of this. This is a classic movie. See if you, or a classic television show that was put together by somebody very famous I want to see if you can figure out what this is here. Hold on, bringing it up, and here we go. Okay, it's starting.
We know that Los Angeles is underground. No. It's not exactly hot news. We've been underground since 1989. 1989? What year do you have? What year do I have? 71. 1971. Well, I have 2017. But then perhaps your watch is just a bit slow. Impossible. How can I get out of here?
Mr. Cameron? Mr. Cameron?
Who knows what show this is?
This is Mr. Cameron.
Mr. Cameron?
This is Mr. Cameron. Telephone's never work around here. Can you hear me now?
So, yes, that was a short excerpt from a 1971 episode of The Name of the Game. The main character is a magazine publisher who mysteriously falls asleep at the wheel and wakes up in the future in 2017, to be exact. Pay close attention as the 24-year-old director there listening in opening credits was Steven Spielberg. And it was one of his very first TV episodes. If you want to see the full episode, you can come here any day and see it in our library. Before I begin...
So that was, one of Steven Spielberg's very first things, and it was kind of funny because could you imagine, being an adult in 1971? I wasn't even born, but being an adult in 1971, put yourself back into that era. You've all watched the 70s show, right? So 1971, and to wake up, and it's 2017. Just let that kind of sink in right there. Well, it is 2017, and so much has changed in the past 40, 50 years and continues to, and I feel like the speed of this change is only getting faster and faster and faster. It's not even, and there are leaps and bounds that the change is happening by. So let's talk about a little bit of what was being discussed at CES. Certainly, we had things like the Alexa that I was mentioning.
Some of the gadgets that we saw there. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, so I guess we may as well start with the biggest elephant in the room, which was actually Amazon. Amazon's Alexa was everywhere, which is kind of funny just because Amazon wasn't officially showing at the show, but it managed to steal the show anyway. And really, Alexa was built into so many gadgets, so many types of products, more than I anticipated even going into the show. And it just seemed that whereas in previous years many of the connected home objects we saw had cameras built in, this year they all have microphones built in. We specifically worked with Alexa on the back end.
Yeah, I thought the free kind of press and the buzz that Alexa got was almost comparable to what Trump got while he was not putting anything out there, but getting all of the buzz and reaping all the benefits of that. So, John, what were your thoughts?
Alexa knows her mic is hot, though. That's the difference.
So yeah, there were like 700 devices that were connected.
She said, Alexa knows her mic is hot.
Quite something. And what I was struck by in years past, you sort of saw the connected refrigerator. In particular, last year, I think when we were here, I thought Samsung's was the cool one. And then there was this year, I thought the Panasonic connected kitchen was really cool with the induction thing, counter that cooks everything. It knows how to cook. You put a plate on it, and it's got a steak, and it's got potatoes, and it's got a vegetable. It knows how to cook each of those things and can tell what it is that's on top of it.
Did you see the chef doing the demo with that as well, which was amazing? So it's essentially idiot-proof. Like any of us can be Mario Batali if we wanted to with this technology.
So you start thinking who needs.
So connected stoves, connected refrigerators, connected everything. It gets into that whole Internet of Things. And, the guy from IBM Watson was there talking about it as well. But this panel, really interesting. That was primarily John Miller talking, along with Joanna Stern from the Wall Street Journal. Those were the two folks that you just heard listening there. Some good humor related to Trump and, a throwback to that thing with Billy Bush and the mic being hot and all that stuff. Well, let's move away from politics again. We're going to talk about let's see, some of the questions that came up, and I had a chance myself to ask a question about 5G and the state of that, because I wasn't hearing a lot of buzz about that. So we're going to jump into and kind of fast forward through some of this. We got into the questions and answers with the panel. Really neat stuff.
I think what happens this year in AR and VR is a lot around the software. What's the content that's in there? And I think that stuff is only getting better, especially because the cameras are only getting better to shoot both the content and even the advertisements. Some of the advertisements that I've seen in Google Daydream are pretty great. But I think that's what has to keep getting better to get more people to think about buying VR or trying VR and AR.
I had a couple of questions here. Right here.
Lorraine Arbus, trustee for Paley. Does this interconnectedness impact, as far as you can see, the potential, the possibility for enhancing the coffers of insurance companies?
That's a good question.
You know, it's fascinating. What is going to be privacy insurance? What is that going to be? Right? We alluded to it a bit in the beginning, which is when you have all these different sensors around you all the time, whose information is that? Who gets to see it under what circumstances? So there's a whole body of law. I don't think has even been written around that. Then there needs to be, as to one of your questions, there needs to be insurance around that. There's going to be insurance around self-driving cars.
Absolutely.
You know,
One of the wildest things I read about during the show was a concept Honda vehicle that could pick up Uber passengers while you were away at work. So you wouldn't even be in the car while your car is making money for you. And what if something went wrong? I think that's a great question. What if your car was doing double time as an Uber and something happened? It had a fender bender.
What if it didn't even ask if it could do it?
Teenager.
You'll leave me alone for 8 hours here.
There are so many what ifs there that I don't think people have the answers to right now.
But it's interesting. It's not my usual area, but I might go out and buy some.
Was anyone talking about, for all the connected, like home IoT devices or whatever devices, was anyone talking about end-to-end encryption or other forms of security as a selling point, considering we've been, loaded with DDoS attacks in the last year? Was that something people were arguing is a reason to buy?
The one place, though I read many press releases, they could use some innovation. Mattel has, Dina, do you remember the name?
It's the Aristotle.
The Aristotle, right. So Mattel's Aristotle is Alexa for kids. And talking about what you were talking before, a little bit creepy about putting this robot in your child's room, and if your baby's crying, Aristotle will take care of it. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. Lots of great marketing.
No insurance needs there.
Yeah. But they were the only ones out of all the press releases that I read about these cameras, et cetera, that they mentioned 286-bit encryption and that they meet the privacy guidelines of regulations. That was I would say that's something these companies are not.
It otherwise was not a big part of the conversation. To your point, I think it should have been, but really, I think was glossed over during the show.
And I think the big question about the operating system and the ecosystem is that actually what Amazon's really winning on right now is opening up so quickly. Google is a little bit late because their product was late and they are taking a more measured approach.
I personally think Google's going to catch up.
Work with their microphone and work with the home. But Amazon just said, everyone can come in. Everyone can use Alexa. And it's unclear where the privacy starts with the company that taps in and what's on Amazon.
That's kind of what I was referring to. No one knows what those rules
Right,
are.
yeah. And like when I wrote this,
who's responsible for what, who can use what, how?
Yeah, when I wrote the piece about Google versus Amazon, I was grilling both of those companies about when are you listening, where's the data going, how do you make sure consumers know that everything is being recorded? Because actually everything you ask Alexa is safe. I mean, if you've got Alexa right now, she will see, you can go into your account, you will see that you asked to play, Rod Stewart or whatever, and they know that all. So the question is then who's storing that data?
Watch out when you think you're being funny.
Right.
All right. I have one
She'll have the
one
last
more
slide.
question. I know you've been patient, so
Oh,
I'm
here's
gonna
mine.
give it to you.
Great, thank you.
Last question, and then we're going to wrap up.